We're turning 3 and we're celebrating turning 3 with a bunch of interviews. And to start us off this morning, we've got Sister Jane Booth. Jane Booth is a retired nurse who worked in the tracheostomy unit at Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital and started the Breathe Easy program. In 2008, she put forward the name of one of her patients to take part in a pilot project for a radio station at Red Cross Children's Hospital, a project that would later become RX Radio. The patient is Kakamba Kuba, a senior RX Radio reporter who is also a board member along with Jane. Jane will be chatting to us today about some of the history of RX Radio and the growth that she has seen. Jane, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Alex. I'm well, thank you, and thank you for having me on your third birthday show.
We want to start off with looking back to 2008. Why did you suggest Kakamba to be a part of the pilot of RX Radio all the way back then?
So, Kakamba was an intelligent and resourceful young girl, and I knew that Gabrielle Egoiti of RX Radio was looking for young reporters, and I suggested her, hoping that it would help her and be good for the radio station.
And what do you think the difference is now that you've been able to see RX Radio grow over the years? You've seen RX Radio grow. It's been now, now it's 12 years ago actually that you suggested Kakamba. So what do you think the growth has been of RX Radio from the pilot 12 years ago to today?
So for me, the first thing is that pilot was with no proper studio, they used to be in the hospital and come around to do their little interviews. There was a lot of training. We often saw the children in the wards, and we knew that they were enjoying themselves. I know that our Kakamba was a very shy little girl in those days and not very worldly. But the amazing thing is that RX Radio put the most incredible confidence into all of the children that took part in that. And it was so heartwarming to see. And then eventually the actual radio station was born 3 years ago, and it's a physical space in the hospital, but it's also a space of knowledge and of growing young minds in the most amazing way by uplifting the children and empowering them to say what they feel and think, and giving them a place to be, especially children who have chronic illness. It's been the most unbelievable growth of a station, I think.
Did you ever think it would become so big?
Well, I know that Gabrielle Egoiti had very, very big plans, and I knew that it would all come to fruition. And I knew that once he got going with his radio station, he would grow it organically and get it up and running, and that, what could happen out of it would be something very big. And I think there's proof of that in the awards that have been given to the radio station and individuals, to the way children have flourished at school since they've been part of this radio station and had a real voice in the world. So I didn't know how big it was going to get or how it was going to happen, but I knew it was going to be something really, really good.
And you mentioned some of the highlights or some of the awards that RX Radio has won. For you, what would be the highlight of RX Radio over the past 3 years?
The highlight for me is, this is an incredibly ethical radio station. There are consents signed by the parents and the children every single time an interview goes out. So using ethics involved and the thought that goes into every single program that RX Radio does, so that once it gets out to the public, it's already something real, and so that to me is the biggest thing, that the ethics about it and the amazing advocacy, because the children interview the most incredible people on this radio station who've made an enormous difference in the world. And so these people who they interview are often people that the children can also look up to and learn from as sort of mentors for themselves. So those are the big things for me, is the integrity of this amazing radio station.
And then what do you think you personally have learned over the years as you've watched Oryx Radio grow, and that you've been interviewed on Oryx Radio a few times? What do you think you've taken from Oryx Radio?
Well, I suppose joy has been the best thing for me. And I think that just seeing the changes that it's made in the hospital, many of the staff have also been interviewed and included in the radio station. And so they've also discovered that they've got voices and how important they are. And so it's helped with the confidence and building up of many of the staff in our hospital. And me personally, I feel, well, I'm a board member and I've never been a board member of anything before. And so it was a great experience for me to learn about, what to do and all the incredible paperwork that goes into it, and the amount of work that Oryx Radio has put into behind the scenes this amazing radio station.
And we've spoken now a bit about Oryx Radio back in the beginning. So you were talking about Oryx Radio back when it started in 2008. But now if we look into the future, where do you see Oryx Radio in about 5 years' time?
Well, I hope that, we've just had the whole COVID thing, which has put a couple of things on hold. But from now on, I just know that we're going to be able to expand into, hopefully, many, many more children's hospitals and children's wards in hospitals in South Africa, and possibly moving into Africa. I think that this is going to be a radio station that is going to grow large tentacles and be able to be used as a tool in children's care. I really think that it's a fantastic thing that's happened.
Well, Jane, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show for our big birthday celebration. Just before I let you go, is there anything else that you would like to add or say?
Well, I'd just like to say happy birthday again, and well done to everybody who has been involved with RX Radio, the staff, the children, the general public at large. I mean, it's been a fabulous experience, and thank you very much for having me on the show today.
Awesome, Jane. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
You're listening to RX Radio.
For and by children.
RX Radio. RX Radio rocks.